You've asked me to meet you at this particular hotel. Fit, why have you asked me to meet you here?
Well, it's the story of Bram Stoker, and this hotel figured very prominently in the story and his inspiration for Dracula.
Was this where he bade, this hotel?
He did. The first time he came up, he stayed in Peterhead. He bade in Peterhead, and he didn't dwell long in Peterhead. He decided he would walk up down the coast, and he walked exactly 8 miles down the coast and landed up at the small port of Cruden Bay and the village itself. Village overshadowed by the hills all round about it, red slate roofs and all the rest of it. He was immediately struck and keen to the place. So for there, he actually, on that very first day that he visited, he decided to book into the Kilmarnock Arms, and he stayed here for a couple of days. And all he did was he just walked up and down the wee bit of beach, went up towards Finney Fall and up towards Ora Rocks towards Slains. And that's more or less for the Cruden Bay Kilmarnock Arms are the hook being started.
I mean, you couldn't get a lot of other places more atmospheric than Slains Castle, could you?
No. I mean, you come here in a night. Okay, it's near the same now because it's near lit up. But in his time, it would have been all lit up. It was occupied by the Earls of Errol.
Oh, folk were still biding
Oh,
there?
absolutely, aye. Oh, aye. It was. The castle was on a go until the 1930s.
Oh.
Aye, so it was all lit up and very atmospheric. And I mean, I have come across records at Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, also bade at that castle. And I found out what the link is as well with some friends of her for London, and that's why she was up here visiting the Earls of Errol. So there must be something about this area.
So,
you've got the author of Frankenstein and Dracula, who came up and lived in this area.
I mean, anybody's been out in a storm on this coast won't have been any doubt far the atmosphere comes from, because he can't help but be part of that atmosphere.
Oh, absolutely. And if we come on to Dracula, I mean, the thing is, he's speaking about the inspiration that he got. Well, there is some writings in his book that it states Whitby, but he never really visited Whitby. I can't find any evidence that he went to Whitby. He probably seen postcards, and I think maybe there was a theatre production that was there. But in Whitby, you certainly got the Al Abbey overlooked, and you've got a harbour big enough to take the ship for the Baltic, which was supposed to have carried Dracula across the sea to Britain. You would never have gotten a ship that size into the wee harbour at Cruden Bay.
So it's a combination between Whitby and here, but mostly here, you think?
As I say, there's no evidence he ever visited Whitby, none at all, but there's plenty of evidence that he was here. He come back here for about 10 years, 10 years on a trot just about he come up here. Every time he had to finish a book or to start a book, he would come up here, and if his editors were piling on the pressure and stuff like that, he would come back up here and he would research his book further.
Tell me a wee bit about his childhood and for the inspiration, because his mother played a big part. And I suppose if it was in his head, it was rumbling about the thoughts and the inspiration, again going back to Dracula.
Bram Stoker was born in 1848. And Finney was born, he wasn't expected to live. But he did. For the first 8 years of his life, he was in his bed. He had various illnesses and stuff like that for the first 8 years. So his mother used to tell him tales about just all sorts of things, banshees and things like that, Irish fairy tales and stuff. But also she was actually she went through a period of cholera in Dublin in the 1830s. And she told him all sorts of horrific stories about folk being pulled out of the hospitals while they were still alive and buried in big pits and stuff like that, and crawling out of the pits. Now, I mean, for a person under 8, hearing all these stories about, terrifying, obviously went into his head and stayed in his head.
We mentioned earlier he would have understood what the Doric was. Did he write anything in the Doric?
He wrote in the Doric, yes, he wrote 4 books in the Doric. I can only remind 2 offhand, The Water's Moo and The Mystery of the Sea. And The Mystery of the Sea is about a seer.
Was he well liked by the locals, only sign of that?
I think he must have been, because why would he not come back, you know,
He wouldn't
year
have come
after
back
year if he wasn't
liked.
well liked by the locals?
Aye.
I think they team him into there, and not only was he quite well known in Cruden Bay. At one point in time, I can't remember the year, it was about 1905 or something like that. But he was asked to open a Peterhead flower shop, and I mean, he was so well known in the area. And the reason I asked him to do that was because he had made this area popular because before the railway come. So that was one of the reasons that they asked him. And I mean, the railway did come to Cruden Bay eventually.
So when was Dracula actually published?
It was 1897 that Dracula was actually published. But I think he had been absorbing all the information and the stories that he was getting for the local people long before that to help him to build up the picture of Dracula. I mean, he did an awful lot of research in Transylvania. We ken that. Oh, there's quite a few legends here, but one of the meanings I think that probably was his focal inspiration would have been the story that at Lammas-tide, and if you had the sight, you could, if you come here, all the people who had, other buddies for locals or for abroad, had wrecked onto the Scowers Rock just off the coast of Cruden, drowned. They would have rose up out of the water in a moonlight night, and they would have formed a procession, and they would have walked to St Olaf's Well, which is just in the middle of Cruden Bay here, and they would have passed him by, and he's seen all sorts coming past, Spaniards and all the rest of it. And the Spaniard thing, that although he didn't mention the Spaniards thing in Dracula, he did mention it in The Mystery of the Sea, because that was about a Spanish treasure from an armada ship.
Which went down at
Colliston. Aye, went down at Colliston. So, but as I say, all these tales that people were telling him, they were all being absorbed in the tales that his mother told him. And then he come up here, and it was, I think, the inspiration. He started writing Dracula up here. It does mention in his autobiography that he started it, and I am convinced the amount of times he come here was that this area was a true inspiration for Dracula. You come here at night, on a stormy night, and you'll see why. No doubt about it.